Joining us now is Acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf. Chad, are you there?
I am.
What can you tell us about this development?
Well, again, State Department issued a travel advisory last night advising all Americans to return back to the U.S. and not to travel overseas. And again, those that are outside of the U.S. to make sure that they return home quickly. There's a number of measures being put in place around the world, quarantine measures, so we want to make sure that Americans are aware of that and can return home if they can.
The State Department issuing that level 4 advisory for all Americans, for all international travel, if you will. Americans being urged not to leave the country or return as quickly as possible. What else do you expect happens with this in the coming days and weeks, if not months, Mr. Secretary?
Well, again, we continue to enforce the travel restrictions that we have on 30 different countries now. So we have a number of individual flights coming back from those countries, Americans coming back into the U.S., where we medically screen them and really ask them a number of questions as they land here in the U.S. We are also taking a look at our neighbors to the north and the south, and the President announced earlier this week that we are limiting non-essential travel across our land border with Canada. We're also taking a look at what we can do on the southern border as well with our partners in Mexico. And so we're taking a look at all angles, not only the foreign restrictions coming in, foreign travel restrictions, but also what we can do closer to home. And so we hope to have more about that later today. What
more? Can you just give us some insight into that?
Sure. Again, it'll be non-essential travel going across our land ports of entry. We want to make sure, and this is not about closing the border, this is about keeping the border open and making sure that trade and commerce and economic activity continues. So we're doing that again on our northern border. We continue to talk with our Mexican colleagues and hope to have a similar measure in place today on our southern border, as well as a number of other measures that we're working with both the Canadians and the Mexicans on. What we're growing increasingly concerned about are the number of illegal individuals coming into our country, making sure that we protect the DHS frontline officers as well as our facilities. So as we look at the types of facilities that we house these individuals in, making sure that they are safe, but also making sure that these individuals remain at home. And what we see from Northern Triangle countries and others in South America, they are beginning to put very restrictive measures in place to deal with the spread of the virus. And we encourage that, and we encourage our colleagues in Mexico to do the same.
Mr. Secretary, I'll bring Maria Bartiromo back into the conversation.
Thank you so much. And Secretary, apologies for that. We lost my shot there for a moment, so that was what that was about. My apology. Secretary, you've been doing such a great job in terms of leadership in the face of what has been obviously an unprecedented situation. So we applaud you for that. But let me ask you about domestic travel, Secretary, because the other day when the president was during one of the press conferences, he talked a bit about limits in terms of staying home. Are you expecting to put a limitation in place for travel throughout America?
Well, we continue to look at that. We continue to look at that specifically regarding the hot spots around the country where we see large community outbreak and community transmission. But I will say right now, as of right now, we have no immediate plans to restrict domestic travel, although the President, the Vice President, have been very clear on this, encouraging individuals to stay home and really limiting that non-essential travel that they can do. So we do see that. We see traffic, airline traffic down across the country domestically. People are paying attention. They're heeding this advice, and it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. Let me ask you, in terms of those testing that you a moment ago went through, some of the testing that needs to happen if someone is coming, an American is abroad and coming back to the country. What is that testing? Tell us what's involved. If you are an American, you are overseas trying to get back, what should you expect?
So before you even land, CBP, Customs and Border Protection, knows an awful lot about you and your travel patterns. So we've pulled that data. So as you land, you're going to see a CBP officer for immigration purposes that is also going to take a look at you, determine if you're looking sick, if you're feeling sick, but you'll also see an enhanced medical screener as well. They're going to ask you a number of questions. It's almost going to be a questionnaire. They're going to ask you a number of contact information so that we can track you. So it's email, phone numbers, and things like that, so that if you do turn turn up sick, there's a way to contact you and a way to figure out who else that you have traveled next to. There are some random temperature checks, and there's some other questions that they will ask you. So again, these are all individuals coming back, and I will say, since we've put in these travel restrictions, DHS, CBP officers and contract medical screening has screened over 180,000 individuals coming back into the country from those 30 affected countries. So we're doing a great job. It's a big task. It's a tall order, but the men and women of DHS are really stepping up.
They sure are, and we want to thank them for that. Let me ask you about where this is going. I recognize that we need to have a better understanding of the duration of this before really making predictions in terms of how long this is going to go on. But you've got to have a model in your head in terms of putting restrictions in place. At this point, based on what you know now, how long do you expect these limitations in terms of travel, border limitations, to be in place?
So we've talked, again, on the coronavirus task force about putting these measures in place for 30 days at a time and reassessing every 30 days to understand what does the science say about this. And we have great doctors from CDC, HHS, NIJ, and the like, NIH, sorry. And so we're really relying on them to provide the best medical advice. But as I talk to folks here at the White House and others about these travel restrictions, I'm thinking about them in about a 30-day increment.
Secretary, what about these counterfeit coronavirus tests? There were counterfeit tests seized at Chicago O'Hare International Airport this week. Officials say that the kits were shipped from the UK. Should we be worried about counterfeit tests given what was found at O'Hare?
I think so. I think we should always be worried about any counterfeit goods that we see, and what this demonstrates is just the depravity of certain individuals trying to take advantage of this crisis. And so to date, CBP has seized over 500 of these types of tests, and we'll continue to do that. We're continuing to fine-tune our targeting rules to make sure that we continue to catch more and more of these. But again, it just shows you sort of the depths that individuals will go to, again, trying to take advantage of this crisis. But again, the men and women of DHS are going to really shine as we try to identify and then take down these organizations.
And there was a CDC study this week that shows that while elderly people still face the same high rates of infections and deaths, all ages can get the disease and can be hospitalized in severe ways. What can you tell us in terms of what you're seeing today? How severe has it been? We had someone on earlier that said, look, 80% of the people who contract this will just get flu-like symptoms and it will pass through their body. It's not going to be the death sentence that it is for others who have pre-existing conditions and the elderly.
Right. Well, I will certainly leave the medical advice to the medical experts, but what I can tell you, as being part of the task force, is that we continue to be concerned about that elderly population with those underlying medical conditions. What we do see is a little data out of Europe, particularly France, I believe, about some younger population contracting the virus and getting sick. So we'll have to continue to monitor that. But here in the U.S., we continue to be concerned about the older population, elderly population, and those with underlying medical conditions.
Have the people who are on the front lines, have they changed their priorities from, for example, looking at the illegals trying to get into this country? What's happening in terms of the migrants right now with regard to coronavirus?
Well, I would say CBP officers are always looking at individuals trying to determine if they are sick as they enter the country. So we did that well before Corona, and we'll continue to do that. When you talk about the illegal population, that is something that we're certainly focused on, because the risk is not any less there. And in fact, I would argue that it is more. These are individuals that show up at both our northern and our southern border with no travel documents, no medical history, no identity papers. And so it makes it very difficult to determine what type of screening that we should do for these individuals. And so we're concerned about that. We're working with our Mexican colleagues to do more. I hope to have an announcement later today about some measures, some very aggressive measures that we're taking on that, and look forward to sharing that later today.
And of course, our Border Patrol people are on the front lines dealing with that. What about the TSA agents? We know that there have been a handful of TSA agents who work right at the airport who have contracted the virus. What can you tell us about that and the vulnerability there?
Well, I'm certainly concerned about all our frontline officers, and that exactly right. TSA, CBP, Coast Guard, and many others at the department. So we're working with our senior leadership at the department. We're providing them all the PPEs and all the protections that they need to do their jobs. But what we are seeing is in these areas that community spread and community transmission is higher in others. So in Washington State, in San Jose, and other places, New York, we are seeing more and more of our workforce perhaps either self-quarantine or contracting coronavirus. So we're working with our chief medical officer here at the department and trying to keep our employees safe. These are frontline workers, so when they go down, there's not a lot of backup behind them. And so these are the same individuals that are keeping terrorists, narcotics traffickers, smugglers, and other bad individuals and bad actors out of our country. So we need to protect them. We need to make sure that they can continue to protect the homeland day after day.
For sure. Secretary, thanks very much for your time this morning. We so appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.